On PC, before a game comes out, the developer needs to release the recommended specs so that people will be able to see if a game can run on their rig. Usually, these recommended specs simply list the minimum needed specs and what they recommend. The problem with this is that it tells us what we need, but not how the game will run. At the minimum specs, are we playing at 1080p or 480p? Are we playing at 60 frames or 30? The specs don't tell us this. Recently, Respawn Entertainment released the recommended specs for their upcoming game, Titanfall 2. They started as usual, minimum recommended CPU, RAM, GPU, OS, storage, internet, all the good stuff. Next, they added a third set of recommended specs that they titled Ultra 4K 60. Those are the specs that they recommend to play with max settings at 4K resolution with a minimum of 60 frames per second. Next, they go into what minimum and recommended specs actually mean. For the minimum specs, you'll be playing the game at a resolution of 1600 by 900, most visual settings maxed out with an average frame rate of 60. For minimum, this is pretty good. These settings are pretty similar to what we'll see on the console. That's the minimum for these devs. This means that even a low-end PC, you shouldn't really have to worry about having any trouble playing the game. They also posted what they mean by the recommended specs. So you'll be gaming at the same visual settings with nearly everything maxed out, but this time at 1080p 60 frames per second. They also said that these specs should work for 1440p 60 frames per second. Now I'm sure at this point you can guess what Ultra 4K 60 specs is for. Maxing everything out, 4K resolution, 60 FPS. Next we've got some PC gameplay and a list of some of the new tech they used in the game, but after that is when we really start to see that these devs come from a PC gaming background. They list all the graphics options that are going to be in the game. We've got anti-aliasing, ambient occlusion, aspect ratios, including 21:9 for those ultra-wide monitors. We've got shadows, effect details, FOV, texture filtering, texture quality, even 6 different kinds of VSync settings, and there's so much more. They even list some of the non-graphic options, like how it's going to support a frame rate of up to 144, and you can rebind all the controls. Finally, they post something that I believe all game developers should: benchmarks. They post 4 sets of benchmarks, the first being the minimum specs, recommended specs, and then 2 for the Ultra 4K, 1 at 4K, and 1 at 1080p. With all of these, they posted the resolutions, obviously, and all the different graphics settings. All of this means that, assuming they didn't lie in this post, that when the game comes out on October 28th, we'll know exactly how the game's going to run on all of our PCs, which is not something you can say about too many games as of late. This is something I'm sure the vast majority of PC gamers will appreciate, and we all hope that it becomes the norm.
Between when you move and everything on the screen moves, and they have come up with many different ways that users won't get motion sick. I'm mostly going to be talking about the HTC Vive, since that's the headset that I own. So the had to offer the raids. I'd heard a lot about the raids at this point. I heard that Vault of Glass was incredible, that Crota's End was fast-paced and fun.